Hello and welcome to the Plot Twist Podcast, episode 32, I think. My name is Catherine. I am coming to you from the north of Germany, where I am sitting in the garden today. We have beautiful weather. Yesterday was super warm. We had a holiday yesterday, so that was kind of perfect if I hadn't been down with a headache, but it was excellent spring weather. A little too warm already for my taste, but I'm really not a summer person, so take that with a grain of salt. But today, it's in the morning, so I have just dropped off the kids, so it's still the slightest bit chilly, and that's just perfect. So I absolutely wanted to record outside, and this was the place where I could sit in the somewhat shade because I'm sitting under our walnut tree, but it's not really it doesn't have all its leaves yet, and because we've had frost coming in after the first leaves came out, many of those kind of shrunk up and seem to have died. So it's going to take a few minutes for this tree to be full green and lush as it was last year, but we'll get there. I hope you'll see it in one of the next videos. So I'm coming to you from the north of Germany, where it's beautiful today and where I've just recently moved with my husband and our 3 kids. I meant to film earlier, and I started filming yesterday, but since I was feeling under the weather, and also the weather situation kind of was working against me because the only place I could sit in the shade was where I had to constantly look into the sun, so that didn't quite work out. It was super windy. It is, and you could hear it over the microphone. It is still windy today. I hope it will not bother you too much. I have a microphone for outdoors, so it should be okay. Also, there's traffic going by. I hope that's not going to be too disturbing. I'm going to edit it out as much as I can, but something always remains behind, and I hope it's all right for you. I'm sitting in my garden facing our house, and this is a plot of land that we have this is still our garden, and we have just, worked this up so that it looks like just a big plot. And there is going to be a plot for vegetables just right over there where you can't see. Um, but this is all going to be green, I hope, in a few weeks because we've put in grass seeds and yeah, now we're waiting for the grass to kick back in because, the garden, we've just entered our first gardening season here in this house and on the new property. And this garden needs a major do-over. So we are going, step by step. It's going to be a project that, develops over the years. Yesterday I was sitting at a beautiful spot just way back under one of those big trees that maybe you can see on the horizon, I want to say. But so the sort of a background behind me was much lusher and prettier. But today I am set here, and you might see me moving around, and if you see a little cut in the video, and then I'm positioned a little to the left, as Jason says in the Gilmore Girls, then that's just because I will have to move with the sun so I don't constantly blink. Was that someone calling me? No. Those were just the chickens of the neighbor. Maybe you can see the horses in the background. I don't know, but there are horses. Maybe you can see the horses in the background. That would be fun. Those are our neighbors' horses. If you don't see them today, you're going to see them in another video that I film in the garden for sure. But we now live in a pretty windy area, so I hope filming in the garden on the regular will be an option for me. Anyway, today I'm not wearing any knitwear, so I can jump right in with finished objects because I have a finished object that you didn't even see me cast on. I have finished one of these little croissants. Maybe you will recognize them as a Sophie shawl, a mini version. The Sophie shawl by Petite Knit, everybody and their mother has knit one. I never felt particularly drawn to it for some reason. I'm not a Petite Knit fan. I'm just going to say it. I know it's an unpopular thing to say, but I'm not one of the knitters, and it's perfect if you are one of those, but I'm not one of those knitters who wants to knit every Petite Knit pattern. I've actually been disappointed in some of her patterns before. which is okay, but I wasn't looking forward to knitting one of those. But I saw everybody knit them. And so it was somehow at the back of my mind. And I needed a solution for like a sunscreen solution, basically, because I couldn't find my hat. And so I kept using my husband's hat. But that didn't quite work out because sometimes he needs it. It's a sun hat, He has like like a straw head, not head, hat. Man, those two words are hard for me. Head hat. So he has a straw hat, and I have another like summer hat for outside with like a big brim. Um, and I couldn't find it, and eventually I did because I thought this is ridiculous. It has to be somewhere, and I really desperately need it, so I found it. But but yeah, so before I'd found it, which was just this week, sometime this week, I needed a solution, and I wanted to put like a bandana in my head, on my head. I wanted to put a bandana on my head so that when working in the garden or just being outside, I'm very sensitive to sun. I really get sunburn also on my head, also if there's like hair covering. Um, and I get a headache most of all in the sun. After like 2 hours in the sun, those will kill me. Also in April, believe me. And so I had to put something on as a means of protection. And took one of my kids' bandanas that I knit them like a shawl, like a small shawl, and I put this on and it worked. But A, it was wool, so it was pretty warm, and B, it was just I didn't like the look of it because like a bandana is just a real triangle, right? This is also a triangle, but it's a very shallow triangle, and those bandanas are like rather steep, right? So naturally, the when you put them on, they flap back, and then you have these little flaps to the side. They're part of the bandana look. It's just that I don't love that look, at least on me. I don't mind it at all on others, but I don't enjoy that. I did not like it, and I thought I'm not going to knit another bandana to put on in summer, like in a lighter summery material as opposed to wool, because I already know I'm not going to like the finished object. So then it was then that the Sophie shawl popped in my mind, and I thought that might be a solution to my problem, and I think it is. So I got the pattern. I obviously opted for the mini version, but maybe you can see how the increases are very shallow, and towards the middle they get a little bit steeper because my ratio was wrong. I was increasing at a at a ratio that was kind of too slow. And then once I realized, I increased it a bit because I wanted at least this sort of much of material just right on my head, and otherwise it would have been just too little fabric. And that's because of that wrong ratio. I have very long ends, which I'm just going to tie at the back of my neck, and they don't bother me. But I think I'm going to knit another one of these, and I'm going to go with the right ratio right from the beginning so that the increase is just that little bit faster, and the ends are going to be a little bit shorter, maybe by this much. Won't be more, but it makes a difference. Anyway, so I wanted to knit this in a summery material. I highly dislike knitting with cotton, and I mean only dishcloth and only with one particular set of needles that I have. Um, Everything else has never worked for me. I've always been very frustrated when knitting with cotton, so I decided at one point to not do it anymore. So I wanted to go with linen, and I went with 100% linen, which is a yarn produced by my former local yarn store in Berlin, Berlin. I still consider it my local yarn store, but obviously I don't live in Berlin anymore. So, but I know the owner and some of the team that work there. So I wanted to support Ruta and her yarn, and this is 100% linen from, I think, Lithuania, maybe Latvia, but I think it's Lithuania. Sorry, Futa, I don't now know. I think it's Lithuania. Anyway, it's called Lino Muka. I knit it on a 3mm needle, and I was just struck. I'm gonna hold it in the sun by this stunner of a color. I think it's called royal blue, and I mean for a reason. It is just perfect. I think the color is just so amazing. And yeah, so I got one ball on one skein of this yarn. Those are 50-gram skeins, and they're lace weight. So I held it double. Did I? I did. I held the yarn double, and I used up about 40 grams, 39, just shy of 40 grams. So I have about 10 grams left of, or I think 12, something like that, and that went into my scrap collection because I have other Linomuka scraps that I've collected over the years. I have to say, in the past, I didn't enjoy knitting with this yarn as much as I did now. Now I really enjoyed it. It's 100% linen, but it's not so hard on your hands. It looks pretty stiff and sort of rough, but it isn't. And now it feels pretty soft. And I've only given this a soak, but linen has the tendency to get softer and softer the more you touch and wear it. So it will still get softer still, but already now it is really enjoyable and to like touch and wear also on your skin. It isn't scratchy, and it was fun to knit. It was not stiff, or I mean, it's a very unflexible fiber, but I didn't feel that in knitting as I do with cotton, which drives me mad because it's so inflexible. But with this yarn, it was really no problem. So yeah, I'm definitely knitting one of those again. This took me a day to make. What is happening? A little bee came by. She wanted to be on the podcast too. Okay. So this was a super quick make. I'm very happy I made it. It's going to be very functional and going to accompany me in the garden quite a lot. And I'm definitely making another. So you might see a scrappy version of this where I put like, maybe not all of my scraps in, but a whole bunch of my Linomuka scraps over the next weeks. And by the way, I am going to record a German episode of the podcast on a quarterly basis because I was debating last time whether or not I should do it. And I've made up my mind I will. And I really want to. I think it's going to be fun to have quarterly issues, I want to say, or episodes in German. I just really didn't feel up to it over the last week. It was such a mental hurdle to get over, collecting all of the things together that I've knit on during this year, that I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. But I will. I will do it over the next week. I mean, kids permitting, and then I'll put that on the channel. So if you are a German speaker or German, or if you are someone who just is interested in following those videos, keep your eyes peeled on the channel for those to come. I have finished another strip on my jelly roll blanket, which I'm going to show you in a second, and I think I'm going to put it aside for now, or at least I haven't immediately started another stripe, for several reasons. First, because I had lost steam on it over the last 3-4 days that I was knitting on it, and thought maybe after after having knit those 4 strips basically in one go since the middle of March, or whenever I started, the middle of March seems about right. So I've been knitting on this a lot over the last few weeks, month and a half. Where are we? Yeah, the last month and a half. So I figured I could need a little break from the project because it is soothingly garter monotony, but it's also, now I can mix it up a bit. I'm ready for a different project that is maybe a little bit more involved, and you're gonna hear more about it in a minute. But the second issue is that I'm running out of scraps to put in here because I'm sort of organizing them by color, which you will see in a minute. And I have used up those colors that I really had enough of for these individual strips. I think the last amount that I have left is blue. And I can start my blue strip and just go as far as I can and then see what I see. And I will do that. I'm not putting this away for months and months now, I don't think. But I haven't cast right back on immediately. So for the next strip, I'm going to do this over the next weeks and then just work on it occasionally. Like a day a week, something like that. I don't know. As my heart desires. I'm going to show you the blanket now, and then I'll talk about my last few colors. And that's going to be a wrap for the Jelly Roll blanket for the, well, near future, foreseeable future. Okay, here it goes. Hold on. I need to figure out how to hold it up. Here you go. Flying in the wind. So I finished it off with this yellow strip, and I was knitting on this when I talked to you last, which was about 9-10 days ago. So I was knitting on this, right? And I talked about how I love this yellow. I'm gonna hold it in the sun so you can see. It's just so beautiful, like a really golden, a lush yellow. I love it so much. Then I added in this, which has specks of like a beigey yellow and blue and pink, and all sorts of colors, really. I don't know what this is. It could have been a homespun house, but I don't really think so. I don't know. A mystery mini that I had. And then this will have been a single, I think, maybe Manos del Uruguay, but maybe something else. Another mystery single potentially, and a mystery mini. And then there is this little bit right here. I hope you can see. And that is a sort of a beigey brownie yellow with pinks, right? So I only used up a few yarns for this, but they were 20-gram minis. So yeah, and that is my blanket so far. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to add, I think, 2 more strips here, and then I'll finish it off with an I-cord border. And I really don't know what color to go for. Whether to shoot for a really bright color or for a gray, which I don't think. Or like a dark blue, that might be an option. I really don't know. Do you have any opinion on this? Like, if you think I should definitely use like a hot pink or a light blue or whatever, leave it in the comments, because I don't know. It's very tempting to go for like white or gray as a neutral that ties everything together, but I'd rather have something colorful, because for me blankets are a colorful thing, you know. I personally don't feel the need for a beige or white or gray blanket. They're supposed to be fun and bright and colorful and cheerful for me. So it's definitely going to be a color, but I just don't know which one. If you have an idea, a comment, a recommendation, let me know. Let me know. So this is my Jelly Roll blanket. So on to my new cast on. Seasonally, absolutely inappropriately stored in my nutcracker bag. But I love this mint, and I can tell you, you know what? It's interesting. All the, like, you know, the things you really didn't eat as a child. Like for me, it was I think it's red peppers, and cheese. As a kid, I really didn't like cheese all that much. I mean, cream cheese, yes, but not cheese. So many things I didn't like. Olives, avocado, you know, and things that now I love. I really love. I really, really enjoy. Tomatoes, as a kid, I would really not eat them. And not just as a kid, but like also at age 13, 14, I wasn't really sold on those things. Now I crave them. Same with mint, or some colors, just in general, salmon is a color that I just never liked. And also mint. I could not understand why people like the color mint. Now I love it. It's so weird how people change and do like a 180. Anyway, I have started and I've hinted. Hold on. There's a lot of ends here. I've hinted, oh man, mid-row. So I have to knit to the end so that you can actually see something. I've hinted at that last time I spoke to you. But I wanted to cast on hold on, now I need to get it right. Not a hibernation, but habitation throw. This is such a hard one for me, and I cannot tell you why. But it just is. It's just such a hard one for me. Wow. And I felt it really itching in my fingers. I had to cast on a habitation throw. It's a pattern by Helen Stewart, and I can tell you right now, I think I'm knitting on 3.5mm needles. My other blanket is knit on 2.5mm needles. So I mentioned in some other episode that for my next blanket, I want to go up a needle size or 2 or 3 because I have knit 2 blankets now. I mean, this isn't finished yet, but well, I'm getting close. This one and the Cozy Memories blanket it has been finished for quite a while. I can link the episode for you somewhere here or wherever that goes, where I show my Cozy Memories blanket. And each of those are knit on 2.5mm needles with fingering weight yarn. And I thought it might be a good idea to to change the needle size and go up a needle size, so that while still knitting with fingering weight yarn, the fabric, my yarn just landed in the grass and the color is sort of identical. So I can spot it. I need a second. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so that it doesn't take me 5 years to knit one blanket. My idea was that when my kids are older, they can each grab those blankets that they love and just take them to their room, or even once they move out, which is something I don't even want to think about, but it's going to happen at some point. They can just take whatever they want and take it with them. But that means I have to have a decent stock by that time. And seeing how long it takes me to finish one blanket, I need to think about those things now because otherwise there's just not going to be blankets plural to choose from. But yeah, so I made good on my promise and went up a needle size. Oh my goodness. And cast on the Habitation Throw, like I said, by Helen Stewart. It is, I'm on the right side. It's a pattern, I'm going to say it right now, it's a pattern that incorporates an I-cord. That's what it's called. And the I-cord is not knit like slip 3 at the end and then knit them at the beginning of next round or row, but she does it differently, and that is such a clever way to do it, and I'll only do it this way from now on. I'm with every other pattern that I knit where it's incorporated, because it's such a better way for me, because I always have issues with tension when I slip those 3 and then knit them on the next round or a row. And I've had the issue with my shawl that I showed you, I don't know, about 2 months ago or something like that, where the edge was just too tight because of that I-cord that I had knit as I went. And now I'm just always going to go with how she does it here. It is so much better. I'm not going to give it away because it's paid for, but that really makes me so happy. For this trick alone, this pattern was already worth it for me. And there you go. Now I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but I'm going to show you my teeny tiny beginnings of my Habitation Throw. There it is. I'm going to hold it in the sun and move myself to the shade so that I don't have to blink into the sun. But yeah, this is it. My teeny tiny habitation throw. I hope you can see. Hold on. What is happening? The ends are flying around, as you would expect. That's it. Okay, I have just put in all sorts of ends that I had, or I'm putting it here like you see. I don't think you're gonna see it on my knee. But I just put in small scraps at the very tip and then went for larger scraps. Many of those, like this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and I think also this one and this one are homespun house. This one is Woolberry Yarn Co. Woolberry, you know. This one would probably be Madeline Tosh or Manos del Uruguay, like the yellow that I wasn't quite sure of. And yeah, and I'm going with all sorts of scraps that I have. I was a little bit on the fence, like when I was right here, just before I put in this hot pink, because I didn't like the colors together, quite honestly. I mean, individually they're fun, but I'm also putting in those that I don't really know what to do with on other projects, like this one. Not because there's something wrong with it, but just because it's so much brown that I don't really know what to do with it, because it's not a color that I knit with or wear ever. And so, yeah, I'm putting all of those colors in here, and I thought in my head it was going to be so much brighter and more, I don't know if cheerful is the right word, because it's not like this is not cheerful. But I figured I have to make sure that I put in one of these colors every once in a while that are speckly and just really speckled colors that I love instead of just like. So as to not have it be, well, too heavy on the colors, I am not super into. Then again, I thought it's a scrappy project. It's supposed to just give a home to those really small bits of yarn that I wouldn't now know what else to do with except put them in a blanket. And I can always, you know, gift this to someone or I don't know, we just need a whole lot of blankets. So, because my kids are growing up and we need more now that it's getting warmer, not so much, but the minute it's cold enough and people snuggle under a blanket, we don't really have enough. Often we have to, well, kids, we would all be fine, but kids fight about everything, right? So everybody wants this blanket instead of that one, and you know, and I thought, okay, we just need more, and I'm happy to make more, you know, I'm happy to, you know, have that purpose and just do it. But my kids might love this color combination. Maybe they wouldn't mind. Also, this is just the beginning. It's going to get so much bigger, and there's so many more colors going in here that I'm not even aware of now because I haven't bought them yet, because I haven't come across them yet, because they haven't been gifted to me yet or swapped with me yet or whatever, you know? Um, because another advent calendar is going to come at some point and is going to get to go in here at least partially, and then there is going to be new acquisitions, and then there's things that I currently knit on, and then I have leftovers off and I can, you know, use them for that. So I need not worry. This is going to be all fine, and I didn't want to rip back because it is so much fun to knit on, because it is very mindless. It's really TV knitting, you know. I can watch a movie and knit on this and not get in trouble, but it is just a little bit more engaging than the jelly roll. Well, because I've been knitting on the jelly roll for so many weeks now and I was getting a little bit bored, but also because of this little I-cord detail. So every beginning and end of round I have to check, am I on the right or wrong side? So that determines like how to knit the I-cord. And every so many rounds you have these little eyelet sections right here, right? And so that's it. But that's how I just stay that little bit engaged, but not so much that it eats up all of my attention, you know? I still have a lot of bandwidth for other things going on at the same time. For conversations, for kids, I can put this down on a moment's notice and know exactly what to do when I pick it back up, so it's not a complicated pattern at all. So if you've been contemplating knitting on this, I mean, now I can understand the hype that's been going through the internet about this pattern. That was a few years ago when it came out, I assume. It was a few years ago, right? And everybody seemed to be knitting on their habitation throw. Whoopsie. But now that I'm knitting on mine, I can really understand what's so fun about this pattern. It's incredibly fun. And I think I cast it on at just the right time. I don't know how long I'm going to knit on this for now. But now this is what I've been knitting on monogamously over the last few days, but it's really just a question of days because I've finished my Sophie shawl before, and the blanket is only just a few days since I've put this down. But well, anyway, so I've picked this up, cast it on, and since then I've only knit on this. And I have a few scraps. Oh yeah, that's my yarn in the grass. But I have a few scraps assembled in here. So this is what I have been knitting on. And I have been watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because we didn't have Prime and now we have it for a month. So I watched the remaining season that I hadn't watched yet. So that was the 5th, I think. I had watched everything prior to that, but not this last one. And I think it's also a final season, right? Let's do Maisel hands here. I think it's a final season, which is a pity, but it's also a little bit of it's not an easy show to watch, not because the content isn't easy, but because there's a lot of talking. My goodness. And plus I'm watching it in English, so there's a lot of very fast talk in English. So I have to listen extra hard. And well, sometimes I was just not annoyed, but just this tiny little bit over the style of the show. Yeah, that's it. I wasn't annoyed with the show, but I was just over it. I thought, okay, I get it. But I still kept watching it and I still enjoyed it. I like the characters. They're very fun. It's just that you can really tell it's an Amy Sherman Palladino thing, production, show, idea, everything, dialogues especially. But so Amy Sherman Palladino, who has also come up with and written and produced and directed the Gilmore Girls up until a certain point, and then the last weird 4 episodes that came out in 16 or something like that. So I love her for having come up with the Gilmore Girls. It's one of my favorite shows. It's such an evergreen. I don't know. I've loved it when it was on, and I love it now. But now with Mrs. Maisel, I can really see her hand, in it. There are so many parallels, also with regard to plot, I think, but also the dialogues, the crazy characters, like Abe Wiseman and his wife, and everybody who is just. I mean, Babette and Miss Patty would have fit right in, right? So you can really see her style there, which is such a good thing. I don't mean it as a bad thing, but it's also, it can be a lot. And so now I'm sort of sad to see the show go because I think it's a final season. But it was a fun show to watch for sure. So yeah, I'm glad I'm finally caught up. And I want to talk about books for a second, and then I'll be through with everything I wanted to talk to you about. but you will have heard in the news that Paul Auster died 2 days ago, which is extremely sad. He's one of my favorite authors. I had the very good fortune of meeting him. I interviewed him 10 years ago when I was in New York City for my PhD. So because I wrote about him he was one of the four authors that I wrote about, um, and because I was an English major, and I got my PhD in American Studies. So I wrote about rooms in contemporary American fiction and wrote about his, I don't want to say novel, his memoir, The Invention of Solitude, which centers so very much on rooms, right? And on other artists' rooms and on his own room. And anyway, so I was invited to Paul and Siri's house in Brooklyn to go there and talk to them. I also interviewed her. And when I interviewed her, I thought she was just so incredibly fast. And I was so happy that I was taping this because I thought, oh my goodness, I really have to keep up here. She is incredibly intelligent and very fast. Plus, it was all in a foreign language. And I was super excited. Or, yeah, well, excited, but also not anxious. but I knew I really had to be very attentive every second, and I was. But it was hard to keep up with her. It was a very fun conversation, though. She was very nice. And when I talked to him, though, he was such a warm presence and just such a nice person to be around. Very warm. I thought he was very warm. She was very strong and just so full of knowledge. And he was very relaxed and just such an enjoyable presence. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, he is a delight, and I'm going to tell my grandkids about this. And I really thought I have to do everything to prolong this conversation because I don't want for it to end, because it was first her and then him. And it was just I really enjoyed every minute of talking to him. Um, and and then a few weeks later, I met him at the Brooklyn Book Festival, and talked to him there, picking up on something that he had recommended, from his own archive. So I went to the Burke collection, and which is where I had been studying anyway, or looking at documents, and then I looked at the one that he recommended. I went back to him and told him about it, and blah blah blah, and then we had a little chat there. So, and that was about it. That's the extent of that. That's how I knew Paul Auster. But I love his books, some more than others, certainly. But I've taught his books, and I just think he's phenomenal. And I'm really sad he had to go so early. I mean, he was 77, but could have lived for another 10 years, you know. Um, and there are three books of his that I haven't read yet, and that's 4321. That is the last one that came out, which I can't remember the name of. It's a name that starts with a B, and it's not Bernstein, but something like that. Parkheimer, Bronstein, I don't know, something like that. It's a name that starts with a B, a German name that starts with a B. So that's why it's outrageous that I can't remember, but I can't. And the third one, and it just occurred to me yesterday, is Oracle Night. And the other two, at least the 4321, is very thick. Like it's 1,000 pages or more. And I just know I'm not going to read this now. And I talked to a friend of mine who has been with me through my entire Auster journey. And he said, he sent me, he was the first one to write to me that he had died. And I thought, oh goodness, that cannot be true, because I really hoped, I knew he was sick, Paul Auster, but I just really hoped he would make it, but he didn't. So he died of lung cancer, as did my stepdad. And then I remembered I had those, I thought two, but apparently three books there were three books of his out there in the world that I hadn't read yet. And then I told my friend, now I don't know, I'm almost scared of reading them because there won't be more coming, this will be it. And he said he can absolutely understand. And then he thought, he just really gets me that way. He said, should we read one together? That would be perfect because then I have a companion to sort of, I don't know, guide me or chaperone me through this one goodbye read, you know? And we picked Oracle Night just because it's the shortest. And I think, oh, I bought this in New York City. Bought this at Strand. I did. Yes. Ha! I did. I bought this at Strand. Perfect. So I bought this 10 years ago. Finally, it's getting read. Oh my goodness. And it wasn't new then, but that doesn't matter. So I have Oracle Night, which I'm going to read with my friend Jeroen. And I told him that is perfect, but I just need a minute to finish what I'm reading now, and I'm going to show you. I'm reading Yellowface. I've started reading it a while back, but I'm just making very slow progress because I just can't fit a lot of reading in right now. And I know this is an international bestseller already, so you don't need that recommendation coming from me, but I'm recommending it anyhow, especially to my German audience, because this has been translated by my friend Yasmin. She is, well, obviously a translator. She also got her PhD in American Studies. That's how we know each other. And she's now a translator of this amazing bestseller. Doesn't matter whether it's a bestseller or not because it's just a good book. Bestsellers are such random well, titles, accolades. It's just a word, but I'm really happy for her that she got to translate this really amazing book. I'm not through yet, but it's beautifully translated. She did a brilliant job, so that's why I'm reading this in German, but it's also just a very compelling story, and it's just incredibly well written. It's really beautiful, and look at this. It's so beautiful. And I mean the publishing house, they really pushed it so much, like you could not notice it. I want to say, if you're a book person, but yeah, it's a huge recommendation. And once I'm through with this, my Auster is going to happen, and I just thought I'd share because it's just been on my mind. Paul Auster. It's such a shame he had to go. Life's short, people. Do something with it. If you've been wanting to learn how to play the clarinet, just do it. I started learning the piano when my stepfather died because I thought I've always wanted to do it. Now I have a piano, which I didn't when I was younger, and I inherited one from my grandmother. And then I thought, okay, so if not now, when? Why not just do it? And I did it, and it was so amazing. And not that I'm such a piano player now, but I had to unfortunately stop when we moved, and I haven't found a new, because I had a wonderful Italian piano teacher. She was so amazing. She was so amazing. And honestly, giving those lessons with her up was one of the saddest things about the move, interestingly, because I had only been with her for, I don't know, half a year maybe. Yeah. Anyway, I haven't found a new teacher here yet, and this was just a reminder. I thought, yeah, I know, right, I wanted to play the piano, so I just have to. I have to do it because you have to do the things you want to do now and not whenever, because that day might not come, and this is I don't want to end on such a bleak note, but more on like I think of this more as an encouragement. We still get to be here. I still get to do stuff, so I had better use my time well and do things that I really want to do. And of course, not everything has to be fun and can be fun. I need to do my laundry. I need to go grocery shopping and so on. Some things in life aren't fun, and that's okay. But by and large, I want to really choose the things well that I do in life. That's probably something that comes with age and gets stronger and stronger. But yeah, I'm very glad we did move to the countryside, and we not only just talked about it for quite a long time, but actually did it. And um, jumped in that cold water, and it was definitely worth it. I would always have thought what it might be like, opting for a totally different lifestyle and living in a different place and so on. And that goes for everything, right? Do the things that you want to do and make you happy as much as you can. Like, who said that? Dan Jones of the Bakery Bears. Find out what makes you happy and do it as often as you can. Hence my knitting. Same goes for the podcast. I've always wanted to, or for quite a long time, I've wanted to film my own knitting podcast. And once my stepfather passed, I thought I just have to do it already because there's no one doing it for me. So I just have to do it if I really want to do it, and I do. Then, do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. So I did, and again, I haven't looked back. You know, um, yeah. And when Dan Jones said, "Find out what you love and do it as much as you can, do it as often as you can," he was obviously talking about knitting, and I think about this very often because I'm one of those people. I have to knit, otherwise I cannot cope with my life, with anything. Not that my life, but otherwise I cannot get rid of any stress or be present in a moment or be attentive to whatever it is that needs my attention. I need knitting. It's not a hobby. I have to knit, and but it also happens to be the thing that I maybe enjoy most doing. Yeah, I think it is. So, find out what you love and do it as often as you can. Okay, I think that was it for today. Yeah. I don't think I have any more to share with you. Okay. So, if you want to support the channel, it's very easy to do so. You can you can subscribe, you can just take a screenshot of your frame as you're watching a podcast and share it on your Instagram. That helps a lot. I mean, I find so many new podcast inspiration in exactly these sorts of frames that are shared. You can also, if you feel like it, hop onto my Ko-fi page and tip me $2 there, so €2 that is. There is that option, no expectation. Just I want to put out there that this page exists. And that reminds me, I forgot to mention in the beginning, again, Maisel hands, that everything I talk about, my knitting as in Ravelry project pages, podcasts or people or books that I will have mentioned or shows, all of this is going to be in the description box right below this video. There's a little arrow and it says more, and if you click on that, you will be presented with all of those active links that will take you, wherever you want to read more or, go to my Ravelry page to check out whatever the pattern or needle size or whatever it is that you need more information on. Yes, so thank you so much for hanging out with me and taking some time out of your day to spend with me in my garden in the sun, even if I had to squint half the time. I hope the sound will have been okay. I'm going to give it a listen now. Thank you so much for checking out this channel or coming back. I hope to see you in my next episode, which hopefully is going to be my German episode sometime over the course of the next week. And and other than that, happy knitting, take care, and do what makes you happy as often as you can, and I'll talk to you soon.